Hello and welcome to your second edition of Leeds Lounge. I am Jordan.
I am Dwayne.
We are your hosts, your MCs, your DJs for the evening. But the real magic of the evening is going to be brought to you by a man that I am lucky to call a colleague and a friend, and that is Benjamin Eckelberry. Benjamin, welcome.
Thanks. I'm excited to do this.
So first, let's just tell us a little bit about who you are. Where do you work? What do you do? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I am a first grade chaos coordinator. I work at Tecumseh North, which is in the Shawnee Heights district, and I have been fortunate enough to work there for about 12 years. And first grade is just the best. It's where that spark of reading really happens, and there's just a lot of really important milestones that happen in that first grade year. So I love it, and it's challenged me every day for the last 12 years in different ways, but it's very rewarding also.
I've learned something as I talk with a lot of really fantastic educators. They tend to be very humble. Benjamin, what is going on with you this year? What honor have you deserved and received this year?
I have been selected as one of the 8 regional finalists for Kansas Teacher of the Year, which has been, thank you, um, a very cool experience. Kansas does this a lot different than a lot of states, actually. In some states, the one winner, just travels around individually and does all the conferences and things by themselves. But I think for the past, I want to say 6 or 7 years, Kansas has um, invited all of the 8 finalists to travel around together, and that experience has been so cool. The other team members that are on the 2024 team are all just amazing people, and I just have grown so much just by being around them and just hearing their passion for education.
I would like to think that Kansas made that change because of the quality teachers that we have. It's too difficult to get it down to just one. So, and Benjamin, this is my first opportunity getting to visit with you. Jordan, I know has the he's very lucky to have you as a colleague. So speaks very highly of you, and my hat goes off to you as a kindergarten teacher myself, like to have that male representation down with the primary grades. Like my major kudos to you, brother.
Well, holy smokes, kindergarten, that is a challenging. People always
Oh,
laugh when I'm like, kindergarten is a different beast. And they're like,
oh,
you teach
100%.
first grade. It's 1 year away. I'm like, it's a big year though. There's a lot of big things that happen in kindergarten before they get to me. So you are a saint.
Well, I'm
Well, I appreciate it.
in intermediate. Like, thank you for what you guys do. Like, you guys do. So thank you for that.
Hey, we all just stand on the shoulders of those who are before us. But
Very true.
I will say, I've always had the saying that teachers all get to get into heaven, but kindergarten teachers get to cut in line. So,
Here we go. All right. I say let's go ahead and get into some of these questions that we've kind of come up with for you, Ben. The first ones are going to be about kind of you and your philosophy of education. So like how would you describe your core philosophy of education? Like what are some things you really believe in and what you do in your classroom that really drives the decisions that you make?
I think really first is just those connections with students. That's really what it's all about is, I mean, education, like the academics of it is important for sure, but it's really important because it's a vehicle for helping kids to grow and develop and just find their passions, which is probably my other thing that I'm most passionate about is just bringing play-based learning and play into schools and just being an advocate for that in general. Because I think a lot of times play is kind of just regarded as like, oh yeah, like that happens at recess. Like I think I've seen that. but really play like as adults. That's a necessary thing. We need to have those times where we just get in that flow state and we lose track of time. And that's really what our passions are. And I think one of the most beautiful things that an educator or a person can do is help someone discover their passions and then equip them with the skills to pursue that and to try to make a life out of doing that, whether it's in the job or just as a side hobby. And that's one of the things I really love about our team this year is that we have a lot of CTE teachers where there's a FACS teacher, there's a business teacher. Like the winner, Liz Anstein, is amazing. And she essentially runs four small businesses out of her school, which is just amazing. But all of these kids are just finding like not just things that they like to do, but things that they like to do that they can make a career out of. So it's just I think play is just one of those things that is it can't be talked about enough. Or I would like to see it get to the point where I feel like it is, but I think it's just also just a really great way to combat a lot of the issues and struggles that education is facing with social emotional struggles. Play is like a really great silver bullet for that in a lot of ways.
Oh, Benjamin, that is a fantastic segue into the next question that I had for you. First of all, I want to say thank you for recognizing the importance of learning through play. That's something like historically you see that at the preschool level, but then like I've taught for a very long time, so this we're getting back into that, recognizing the value of learning through play with so my question was about how do you, like, especially at the primary level, how do you find that balance between academic rigor and the social emotional learning that we know is so important?
Great question. Can I ask where do you teach at?
I teach at Frank Layden Elementary in Frontenac, Kansas.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mhm.
Awesome. That's kind of is that by Pittsburgh in
Yes,
that area?
yes,
Okay, cool.
just north of Pittsburgh.
All right, awesome. But yeah, finding that balance is always challenging. For me, it's almost more about the balance of just taking the time to plan activities and lessons that are embedded with play because I feel like the nice thing about play is it does address those things and it does have that rigor. I think a lot of times play is viewed as like a substitute for work and rigor when it really is, it's embedded so much into that. I always use the example like we just did a base 10 unit in our classroom. And if you just walk by and look at them, like they're cool, they're making cute little like monster card battle things. But really, with that, they are practicing all of the skills in our standards. They're practicing adding and subtracting base 10. They are working on like that iterative design process there because they have to make a balance card. Because if they make it, oh, my guy has 10 billion health, they realize pretty quickly that nobody really wants to play with them, or it just becomes who can fit the most zeros on this card.
Right.
And then they're also just like that graphic design. And so I think a lot of times people think that rigor is more pages, more like 10-page paper as opposed to 3 pages. And really it can just like play, it has rigor, so much rigor embedded into it often because kids are being pushed and but it's just done in such an engaging way that it doesn't feel like that for them. So I'd say the challenge really is getting that just making sure you have that time to plan because it does take extra thought and intentionality. So it isn't just, hey, let's just get out this paper and make cards. You do need to put some thought into it. And I think that's another thing that I'm very serious about, just because play does have some stigma to it, I think, um, is just I want to show people that you can play and have play-based learning, but still be very serious about education and the needs of your students.
Love it. Certainly the quality over quantity. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I could I could listen to you talk all day, Benjamin.
Agreed, Benjamin.
Uh, so let's move on to education right now in Kansas and in United States, there's a lot of challenges. We've hit on some of those. It's that social emotional learning, it's that behavior, it's the time constraints. But Benjamin, what do you think is one of the biggest, or even just a challenge that's facing Kansas educators today?
I think not just educators, but as an education system, I feel like feedback is just something that is so rare in our profession a lot of times. And I think it's really sad because, I mean, I know admin, like, I'm not putting this all on their feet and saying, ugh, they have all this time, they're kicking up their feet and they're refusing to come to our classroom. I think our admin very likely is not getting a lot of feedback because of we have such a shortage. We have teachers that are just jumping into admin roles without a lot of mentorship. And you just, from there, it just makes it really hard, I'm sure, to prioritize, just like when new teachers are thrown into the classroom without a lot of support. So I do think, though, that a lot of our teacher burnout, I think, could be managed with just number one feedback and giving people growth and confidence and using the tools and people that we have. Because I think a lot of times this feels sometimes a little bit like a you have it or you don't kind of situation with teaching. Like, yeah, cool, he had enough skills to get over that initial hump, or they didn't. But would love to see. I was talking, well, not to, I'll bring up Liz a lot, Einstein, the teacher of the year, because she really is like, there's been a lot of reminders for me where I'm like, oh man, you are operating on a different level. But she was talking about writing some plans for like a mentorship program where she could spend half the day on certain days in her mentee's room. And I think that's just so powerful because, I mean, I think we've all probably had people that we've mentored, and then but having a conversation at the end of the day isn't meaningless, but it's not nearly as powerful as getting to be in the room and saying, hey, I saw this happening. You might be able to try this strategy and see some results, or vice versa, having them come to me and watch me teach in my room. And then also just me being in other teachers' classrooms. That's good for me as a experienced teacher too, because I'm always learning and gleaning new things from any classroom. So I think that's just important to everybody to just be in rooms more often. That's been one of the coolest things of the K-Toy experience is just all the district visits we get to do. I just have been stealing all that I can get do while we're out in rooms.
I definitely,
Abs-
Benjamin, like with this all this lead stuff I've been doing, like you get to see so many different ways of doing things, and you hear people talk about how they do things, and it opens up your mind. It's like, oh, there's other ways of doing it, and you didn't know that. But if we could take time to just observe each other work, you say chaos, but I say you work magic, to work your magic. It's a powerful thing that I wish we did utilize more as a education institution.
Yeah, I think there's just something so powerful about watching other teachers with different styles in their element. Because going down to like middle school land, I have like my Mr. Rogers mode, and then I have my adult sense of humor mode, and finding that muddy like middle school humor and like rapport is I don't have that skill yet. I believe it is probably a skill that you can work on, but I see sixth grade teachers giving like their students a hard time, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
Sarcasm.
But
That's
That's how I man.
yeah. I was gonna
like
say
what?
I've got a 12-year-old daughter at home, so that certainly helps me. So our school district, the way that it's designed is we are a pre-K 12 all on one campus.
Oh
So
wow.
it's really amazing. So I get to see the kids that I've taught in kindergarten. I still get to see them on a daily basis as juniors and seniors in high school. So like I get to practice that sarcasm and that snarkiness every day. So
That is great. What a cool situation or a unique situation too. Like that, I'm sure there's challenges with that, but That would be so cool. Every time I go to the high school or middle school and I see one of my old students, it's just I don't know, it just like fills your heart with so much pride to see them just in their element doing their thing. So that is very cool, Dwayne.
Absolutely.
But also the fact that the middle schooler recognizes me and wants to talk to me. Like I'm in that club, and it does make you feel kind of good, man.
Yeah, that's a whole like another level because primary, that's something beautiful about the primary world. It's just unless you come in and yell at everybody every day, they're gonna think pretty much that sunshine is just glowing out of your face. But I usually try to play it pretty cool with like the middle schoolers because I just don't know like I remember how awkward and uncomfortable I was in middle school. So like I just like I'll give them a friendly wave, but if they have a big reaction and run over to give me a hug, I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Like that's a whole nother level of uh like big-headedness I'm sure I get.
All right, Dwayne, you want to ask maybe one more question from our what challenges we have before we move on to our
Yeah.
section?
I would say that one of the big ones, obviously, technology. That's something that with the rise of technology and education, trying to find that balance and how do you ensure that students stay engaged while also develop the really important critical thinking that's required for them to be successful.
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I was actually just thinking about that and talking about that with I have an amazing Pira in my room, and she's been so helpful in all this because she's in my classroom all day, and that's just been so helpful with all the dates that I've been gone. Um, but she was talking about how the students have kind of been struggling because I've been using a lot of during like our phonics time, I have a lot of students who are beyond where we're at with that. And so instead of having them kind of just sit there and get that same repetition of skill or repetition on those skills, which there is some value of that too. But I've utilized like websites like ReadWorks a lot, where they're kind of getting a more of a focus on comprehension. And it's a pretty independent process, but I have really been just kind of racking my brains on some ways to have less screen time. Not that that's necessarily a bad practice. I think there's a lot of good things with that. But I think technology is best used as a creative tool, like as a I'm making books or I'm doing this digital content, as opposed to a lot of times, even myself, I get guilty of this. It's like, oh, this is kind of a babysitter situation where like you're engaged over here. And so I think really that's one of the dangers of technology as adults. Like we don't have, we are horribly under-equipped to lead kids through that journey because I think most of us as adults, we don't model that. We are on our phones way too much. And so I think when technology is used as a creative tool, it can be amazing and the collaboration that can happen there. But honestly, in first grade, I feel like the more that I can stay away from technology in a lot of ways, which sounds maybe not super innovative, but I feel like there's just so much very universal skills that can be taught without technology also. Just like even just when we do like an early math, one of our early math units, I just try to incorporate a lot of music. And so just reading like those quarter note beats and they compose a little bit of that. But like that's teaching the basics of coding. Like, okay, this when I put down this quarter note, this is what I'm telling these people to do. So I think the skills we just have to look at technology as like what are we trying to get out of this? Like if it's just, hey, cool, let's like have fun with this, there's some merit to that. But I think a lot of times what we're using technology for, I think it could be substituted, especially in primary, with other tools that do very similar things. And I just think that screen time, that's always a challenge I think that's going to be facing us because kids are just that's the world we live in now and adults, I will say. So
It's
Yeah, it definitely is difficult because you want to prepare them for the future that lays ahead, and you know that these are the tools that they're going to be using But at the same time, like that's where I feel like we're lacking those social skills is because we're reliant on that technology. So we've had we were fortunate enough to be able to do our monthly family lunch and plays in kindergarten land. And that was one of our first topics that we had when we had our parents come in. It was being able to, when you go out to eat, make sure that you're putting those phones away and you're having conversations, asking those kids open-ended questions, those kinds of things, and turning dinner time into a time to connect instead of everybody on their own device. So it's pretty sad that that's what we see every time we go out. So trying to nurture and encourage those discussions.
As you both have said, it's a balance because technology is not going away. You know,
Right.
things I think about is te we are at technology is the worst right now that it'll ever be. It's only going to get better. Like it's not going anywhere. AI is not going anywhere. And I think we have to find that balance because they have to have the skills to navigate technology, but they also have to have the skills to socialize and interact with people and all those things. So um, bring us around to our last one, Benjamin. We're going to talk a little bit about Kansas leads. So I think the first question is what do you know about Kansas leads, Benjamin? Like what is it?
I mean, to be honest, very little. I know we are going to the Kansas Lead Conference here in a little bit, and I'm really excited. I know some of the previous um, team members from or Kansas Teacher of the Year team members are going to be presenting at it. And I know it's kind of that network of just kind of Milken winners or just people kind of connected through that. But I think I'm not exactly entirely sure what content we're going to be going. I think I'm just kind of preparing myself for some very cool PD, but I
It,
might also get there and find out that we're going to be like sorting paperwork for several hours. I don't know.
that's exactly what it is. It is a network and it is PD, but it's PD that's picked for a reason. It's the things happening right now. It's let's talk about AI. Let's talk about social emotional learning and just getting around people that know more than you do. Like that's my brain. Like I'm just around people that know more about this than I do, and you can just sit there and you can soak it in.
Yeah,
And it's the acronym LEADS, it stands for Linking Educators Across Districts in the state of Kansas. So, and I will say, when you talked about how the experience traveling with the Kansas Teacher of the Year with that team, I envision it being a lot like this conference. There's so much greatness. There's so many amazing educators, and it's so humbling being part of something like that. But going in, and every time I go to one of these conferences, I walk away just empowered and excited to take everything that I've learned back into my own classroom. So just the energy and everything, because this is a conference that like it's going to be on a weekend on April 25th and 26th. So it's a Friday and Saturday. So knowing that there are educators that are giving up their weekend, and trust me, I know how valuable our weekends are after a stressful week, but knowing that they're there, they want to be there, and it's just such an incredible experience. So I'm really excited for you to be there, and anybody that has never gone to one of these, I strongly encourage you to consider.
As he
yeah.
said, it's you give up your weekend and everybody wants to be there. So it probably is like your team. Like teachers don't like leaving the classroom, but what you're doing is you're traveling around with people that love their job and you learn from them and you can just be excited with them. And that's a lot of what Leads is. My free version of Zoom is telling me that I have 4 minutes and 22 seconds left to wrap this up. So, as Dwayne already said, April 25th and 26th is our next conference. It's down there in Front Neck, which Benjamin also pointed out is by Pittsburgh, Kansas. Sign up is actually going to come out at the end of February. We will be presenting at the Keen Conference, and those of you that join us for that get an opportunity to sign up just a little bit earlier than anybody else. And with that, if you sign up early, you get the opportunity to do something really special that you do not want to miss out on. It's a pretty cool opportunity. Just leave that there, let that sit, and hopefully you have some FOMO going on and you can sign up early. The other cool thing about Leeds is it is entirely free. If you are more than 60 miles away, your room is paid for, your food is paid for, you get free swag, which we are, for those of you that we heard you last time, we have upgraded the swag. We got more swag coming. We heard that feedback and we got it. It's going to be a taco bar provided from Two Brothers Mining Company. And Dwayne, you said you've ate there.
Oh, absolutely. It's the restaurant that's in the casino. It's the Kansas Crossing Casino in Pittsburgh, and the food's phenomenal. It's delicious. So, and then we will have entertainment that evening. The next day, Saturday, it will be actually at our school at Frontenac High School. And the address is 201 South Crawford Street. So we'll have the information in there with the when you go to sign up. But it is going to be an amazing time.
And here's the next tidbit of information I'm going to give all the viewers. Breaking news. This has not been released yet. We'll have two keynote speakers, one Friday night, one Saturday. Friday night's keynote speaker is Tyler Bussinger. He's the 2024 Kansas Teacher of the Year. And then on Saturday, John Arthur is going to come be a keynote speaker. He's the 2021 Utah Teacher of the Year, but he was also a finalist for National Teacher of the Year. So we got some educational firepower coming at you guys down here in Frontenac. So pay attention for that sign up to come out, and we really hope we can see you guys down there and we can share some awesome opportunities with you. Benjamin, I want to thank you for taking time out of your evening and being here with Dwayne and I tonight. You are an amazing individual. What you do is absolutely awesome. Thank you.
Well, back at you guys.
Very inspirational. It was very nice speaking with you, Benjamin. Thank you for taking the time of doing this with us.
Well, thanks for doing this just in general. That's awesome to spread just different ideas around education. I think that's so important.
And with that being said, once again, I am Jordan.
I am Dwayne.
That was Benjamin Eckelberry.